Returning to our practice worksheet for Module 3, after you have specified what the categories are for each of the variables, what type of categorical variable it is, dichotomous, nominal, or ordinal. Remember, order has an inherent order to it. And then you've determined the n and percent for each variable by using analyzed distribution. Let's look at the bottom part here, where we talk about recoding race to 3 categories or creating a new variable for high blood pressure. Let's first begin with recoding race. The recode option is a little bit simpler than creating a formula, so we will start there. So what I want to do is select my category of race, select that variable, and then go into the columns menu and go to the recode option. So JMP recognizes that this is a common need and has created a procedure for recoding. So click recode. There's a few things that you want to pay attention to. First of all, on the left side where it says new column, click on the little blue box and you want to change this to a formula column, and you'll see why in a moment. So make sure it reads formula column, and then you want to give this a more useful name. JMP will just name them race 2. If you did another one, it would be race 3, but you need to make it something that you can recognize. So we're going to do race as Caucasian other. This is going to be our new variable name. And so what I simply want to do is take these other races and make them all other. Caucasian staying Caucasian. African American is now going to go into other. So I selected that and I've typed other. Watch what happens when I press return. African American has now moved down to the bottom with other, because other now comes in the lowest order of alphabetical order. So I also again want the rest of these to be other. So you can either type it again or you can cut and paste. So I can select this and copy, and then I can paste and press enter. You'll see now that both African American and American Indian Alaska Native are falling under the other category. I want to create Asian into this or add Asian into this. Again, African American, Asian, American Indian, Alaska Native are all now listed under other. Caucasian's going to stay Caucasian. I will spell that out. And then my other is going to join my other category and press enter. So now you can see that I have 2 new values from 5 old values. Race, Caucasian other has become Caucasian stays Caucasian, African American other, Asian, American Indian, and Alaska Native have now all gone into the other category. So I'm satisfied with what this looks like. So now I want to say recode. And you can see here, I now have a variable that I've created. I have race and I have race Caucasian other. Now I need to verify that this has worked. The simplest way to do that here is to utilize the tables menu. So go into tables and click on summary. In the summary box, I'm going to select both race and my new race Caucasian other variable, and I'm going to put them both into the group option and press OK. And I'll get a new table that comes up that will show me my original race variable, my new race variable, and the number of rows that went into each of them. So you can see here my Caucasian stayed Caucasian, 216. My African American, American Indian, Alaska Native, Asian, and my other categories all became other. The other thing that you can see here is over in the lower left-hand corner of JMP, it's going to tell me that I have 24 rows selected in my main data set. So these data sets are dynamic. This subset, this summary table, is related to my main table. And if you go into the windows here, you can see that I have 2 tables open. I have the original SBP and weight, and now I have the SBP weight by race and race Caucasian other. So any row that I select in this table, my Caucasians, the 216 of them, you can also see in the lower left-hand corner that I have 216 rows selected in the main table. So having verified that this worked, that my others have been appropriately selected and recoded into my new variable, and my Caucasian stayed Caucasian. I'm simply going to close the summary table. Now, don't forget to save as or save. I'm going to save as so that I know that this is my recode data set where I've started to recode variables. I'm leaving the original data set, and I'm now creating a new data set that has been recoded. So from here, we've done race, Caucasian, and other, and then you're asked now to do the N% for each of the levels, for Caucasian and for other. So report the N and percent for those. So what about a formula? If we take a look at the SBP variable and go to Analyze and Distribution and go to Y, you can see that I have a range of 91 to 154, and there are 240 different participants. How many levels do I have? Again, I can go to the tables and summary, and I can put SBP in my group and press OK. And this is going to bring up a summary data set of systolic blood pressure. But you can see here, I have 53 rows. So that means there are 53 unique responses. 128 has 12 responses. So you again see in the parent data set here that there are 12 rows selected. Those are the 12 rows that have 128 as systolic blood pressure. And you can scroll through and see that there's only one person with 103, but there are 13 people with 112. If I wanted to recode this, so columns recode, you can see that there are now 53 different levels that I'd have to recode, and that could take quite some time. So I'm not going to recode. What I'm going to do is create a formula that tells me if my continuous is greater than 130, I want it to be high, and if it's less than or equal to 130, I want it to be normal. So again, go to the columns menu. Now I want to do a new column. And again, I want to give it a name that's meaningful. So I'm going to call it high BP, high SBP, yes, no. And I'm going to make sure that it is a character. So categorical or character variable. And it will be nominal, and that's all we need to do right now. Press OK. And you can see here that I have my new column, but it's blank. So I need to tell JMP that since this is 102, this needs to say normal. And since this is 126, this needs to say normal. This is 134, so it needs to say high. So select the new column, go to column, and go to column information. You get a new box. Under the column properties, I want to check formula. Nothing really happened except for I now see a box that allows me to edit the formula. Click Edit Formula. Now you get the formula box. A few things to know about the formula box. This is the main formula box on the right. This is where you're going to create the formula. In the middle lists your columns available for use. And on the left has the options for action. And we'll see those in a moment. This is a very basic formula. We're creating a dichotomous or two-level categorical variable here. So I need a very basic if, then, else statement. So if it's something, then do this. Otherwise, do that. So I'm going to use the conditional option. If you press on the little gray button here next to conditional, it will open up your options. And I want to choose if. If what? If systolic BP, if my continuous systolic BP. So I want SBP baseline to be in this blue box. Since the blue box is already highlighted where I need it, I simply just need to click on SBP baseline. And you can see that SBP baseline is now in the blue box. What happens if you clicked on the wrong variable and you end up with current smoking status? I don't want that. So simply highlight the blue box or click on it and press delete, and it will go back to the blank expression where I can then select systolic baseline, So if systolic baseline what? If systolic baseline is less than 130, less than or equal to 130, then I want this to be normal. So now I'm going to go to my comparison option on the left. So click on the gray triangle to open. If SBP baseline is less than or equal to, and then go into the blue box and type in 130. So I've got the first part of my statement together. See, because remember, I'm looking for less than or equal to 130 is going to be normal. So I go back to my formula box and I want to click in my then clause. So categorical variables can be a little bit tricky in JMP because they're going to be helpful to you. To write in or type in normal, simply start by putting in the beginning of a quotation. And you can see as soon as I type the start of a quotation, JMP's going to give me the start and end quotation. So all I need to do is type the word normal. I do not need to type an end quote, it's already there. Common error, if I type the end quote and press enter, I'm going to get the warning from JMP that I have too many quotations. So I'll continue editing, I'll get rid of one of my extra end quotes and simply press enter. So the very first part is done. If SBP baseline is less than or equal to 130, then I want it to be normal. Otherwise, again, type the beginning quote, I want this to be high. I want this to be high. Normal or high. That's what I've gone with here. And I can press OK and press OK. And now we can see that I have normal and high blood pressures. Again, we want to make sure that this has worked. So go back to the table's summary menu, put your new variable first in group, and then put your SBP baseline in group as well, and press OK. Again, we had 53 individual options, and we can see that the variables that were listed as high, range from 131 to 154. So high blood pressure was greater than 130. And normal blood pressure here went from 91 up to and including 130. And that was our definition for normal. So I can close this out, and now I could do an analyze distribution on my high systolic blood pressure, and get the N% for high and normal. The practice states low, but it should be normal. For high and normal, give me the N and % for each of those groups. So the one thing that we'll mention now that may be new, that you may not have noticed, when you created the recode for race, Caucasian, other, and the new formula column for high SBP, what happened over here on the left in the columns menu is you can see a little plus sign now next to the variables. Notice the other variables do not have it. You can see these have a plus sign. Click on the plus sign. We'll start with race, Caucasian, other, and you'll see when I click on it, it brings up the formula menu. During the recode option, when I selected that I wanted a formula column, JMP created the formula for you. They used what's called a match option. So it's matching the original race value for each of the levels, and then it's giving what the new levels were. This is why when you recode, you want to create a formula column, because it will create for you how you did it. So you wouldn't have to remember. The same thing for SBP. I did create the formula. We did that ourselves, but JMP has still stored it here. So I can press this plus sign and it will bring up the formula. What happens if your formula is wrong and you want to fix it? In this case, go into the columns, go into column info. The column info box will come up. You could edit the formula to fix it by clicking on the edit formula button, or you could highlight formula under the column properties and press remove. I won't do that here because I want to keep this formula. But if you press remove, it will delete the formula and you'll have a blank column again. And that is how you do a recode, which is easier if you have a small number of levels that you want to create into new levels versus taking a continuous to a categorical where you have many levels to a small number of categorical levels, and we're going to create a formula.